Okay, bye, bud.
Okay, Michelle.
All right, everybody. Happy Sunday. Not so happy moment. Oh my God. Okay, hang on. Come here. Tell us what happened just a minute ago. Before we get started, let's just. It's oh.
Hi guys, it's me, Chandra.
Hi, and Kat. First of all, Chandra's head always shakes. Just now, the last live stream, somebody was like, "There's this like person in the back shaking her head at everything that you're saying, or whatever." But like, just to clear that up, Chandra, you want to explain what's going on? Just take a look there. Hi, Chandra. Hello.
It's just monster. Don't worry.
So hi everybody. This is Kat King here, and this is my fiance Chandra. And just real before we get into this is a really heavy subject tonight. We're talking about why women marry men they know or partners that they know are molesting children or pedophiles and all that, and why they stay with them or even marry them knowing this information. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that shortly. But I just wanted to explain for something, because there was the last live stream when I was talking, and I included Chandra in this stream for the first time, and I forgot to explain that, like, yeah, we forgot to explain. So can you explain like what's going on with your shaking of your head?
Oh, just that my head shakes. So like it happens all the time. Like, I mean, not all the time.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
All the time. Like, I don't know, even when I lay down.
It happens all the time.
Sometimes I have like
sleeping,
a moment.
Pretty much.
There's sometimes like a blessed moment of like, I found the right position for stillness.
Yes.
But it is rare.
So just can you scoot closer?
Yeah, we both need to
scoot I need
to
you
the
to
middle.
scoot much closer to me, please, right now.
Let's both scoot to the middle.
No, I need you to scoot this way. Okay. So just first of all, before we get started on this is something that I've been needing to do for a while, because it's important to like draw a really clear connection between childhood trauma and schizophrenia. And as you know, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Kat, and I have treatment-resistant schizophrenia. This means that I haven't been able to find a medication so far that works for me, that's safe, or that actually takes the voices away. And in my case, I happen to have a form of schizophrenia where I hear lots of voices constantly. They're abusive, they are threatening, they are persecutory. I have command voices. They don't tell me to hurt other people. They tell me to hurt myself primarily. And they try to tell me that other people aren't like who they say they are, or they try to convince me that my partner doesn't love me, things like that. And then I also have visual hallucinations in the form of like sometimes fully formed hallucinations. Like I see a almost 7-foot tall man who kind of looks like a serial killer you might have heard of named Ed Kemper. And he follows me around. He stands in the corner a lot of the time, right behind the front door, and he's like there right now. But he's always there. If you've So anyway, but I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and explain. I also am a military veteran, and I deal with some complex PTSD. That means that I've had a series of traumatic events throughout the course of my life that's led to what they thought was what kind of led to me developing schizophrenia. It was just a compounding set of near-death experiences and assaults and things like that throughout the course of my life that led to what they think kind of bottled up and became full-blown schizophrenia, which is hearing voices, seeing things, but it also is a series of other types of symptoms. And there's a really important thing that I want to start with, which is that there's a statistic out there that says that 9 out of 10 people with schizophrenia have a history of childhood trauma. So that's why I've started this stream tonight, was supposed to explain sort of what I think is the through line, what is the connecting line between what I experience now, some of what I experience now, some of the voices I hear, some of the hallucinations I see. I feel like some of it does connect to the things I experienced as a child. And so I wanted to kind of talk about my family's experience with this topic. And it's important that we talk about these things because it is more common than you think. This is not, I don't think this is quite a rare phenomenon, that there are women who know that something's wrong with their partner, or they see something and they have a red flag and they ignore it. And in my case, in my family's case, it was serious. But before we got started, I just wanted to say that in the last weekend stream, folks were asking about my partner and to include her. So I just wanted to introduce my partner. This is my fiance, Chandra.
Hello.
And we've been together for 3.5 years almost. And we're getting married. And she's my rock, really. She's just been my best friend through all of this. And I've had schizophrenia now for almost 15 years. And it's been rough. It's been rough because there's just not a medication that works. And the one medication I did have a good kind of experience with in terms of getting rid of most of the voices and things, it turned out to have some really dangerous side effects that jeopardized my life and on multiple occasions. And Chandra could talk about some of them if she wants to tonight. But tonight we're going to focus on this whole idea of why there are women who unfortunately just either ignore the warning signs or they do know something's wrong and they choose to stay anyway.
Yeah.
So it kind of just goes back to around 2001, right around the time my parents divorced finalized. My mom had met a guy online, and his name's Al, and I'm going to just name him because he's convicted. He's convicted and he's in the registry and everything. So I'm not like slandering anybody. So anyway, and his name is Al. And my parents' divorce I was brought up in a pretty conservative sort of nuclear. And by that, I mean like mom, dad, married, born into wedlock. Like my dad was a bus driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I had a sister, myself, and my grandma, and then like the cousins, the hallowed sacred cousins, and they were like the long like denim skirt, full to the ground, full. They never wore pants, and they like weren't allowed to wear pants, and so they were like really even more conservative than we were. And I just knew that we were kind of different, even though I thought we were pretty strict Christians. Like I wasn't allowed to be anywhere around guns. I wasn't allowed to have like pistols or anything gun shaped, no water pistols, no super soakers, nothing that was shaped like a gun ever. My mom freaked out when she found me with a gum. In the 90s, there was a time when the ice cream trucks were coming up through the neighborhoods and they were selling gum, but it was in a wrapper that looked like a cigarette. And my mom saw me with one, and she like ripped this guy at the ice cream truck a new asshole over it. My mom ripped another neighbor's asshole wide open over me watching Cinderella. So like no witches, no Halloween, no nothing. The one thing I really loved about my childhood was like Wednesday nights at 8 was Star Trek and Voyager. But then my parents divorced, and it was really ugly and nasty. And there were a lot of really nasty, ugly things that happened that I had never seen my parents fight. I'd never seen my mom really like scream at my dad before. I see my mom like yell at like women for like, again, letting me watch Cinderella or whatever it was. But yeah, like I was spanked. My dad spanked me. There were some times where like, I think it went too far, but like in this instance, in this context, I guess it was kind of very normal at the time. So, but yeah, for me, that was part of my childhood was seemed like okay. And then all of a sudden, like we were like homeless. We didn't have anywhere to go. We were living in like really shady, seedy motels. And then we ended up in this single wide trailer in Yucaipa. And it was right around the time that the 9/11 attacks happened. And I was 10, 11 years old when that happened. And Al kind of came into our lives over ICQ. I don't know if you're familiar with ICQ, but it was a real-time chat. It was really exciting for people to use because you could see what people were typing in real time. So like if they were making a mistake, you could see them in real time. Oh, I fucked up, and you could see them like backspacing, and then correcting themselves. And it was kind of fun. And this was like when AOL Online was just coming onto the scene, and they were putting out those CDs, CD-ROMs with like 1,000 hours or 3,600 hours of free usage. And so we all rushed out to the store and keep getting, different ones and starting new accounts to keep going free because it was really expensive. But my mom managed to get on the internet, and it was over ICQ that she says that, well, she was looking for her brother, but she ended up finding her ex-boyfriend, and then she ended up finding this guy, Al. And he was a Marine, and he'd been through some stuff, and like he was a combat Marine and everything. And he had PTSD, but he was like a good singer and he loved to play guitar, and he had a, slick back, jet black hair and dark eyes and kind of bulgy eyes, a little bit, kind of beady eyes and thin lips and sharp teeth, and everything. And it was just, I didn't like him from the beginning. I just thought he was like too nice and too friendly, and he was just trying to win us over too much. And there was a time when, but in a Christian home, like a divorce is like death. It was like, I don't know, like everything changed. We were like, we never had a home after that. Actually, we just never really lived in a house. We went through a lot of homelessness and evictions because of Al, for a lot of reasons. But this time it was weird. I didn't like him. He kind of came in out of nowhere, and like my dad had come around and was having dinner with us. So my older sister, I think there's maybe a hope in her mind that our parents might be able to get back together and we'd be a family again. And at this time I was so maladaptive. I was like constantly like, I lived in the universe of Star Trek Voyager, and I thought I was Captain Janeway, and I was just lost in the sauce all the time, just like not listening to the things that were going on and everything. Because Al, there were just awful things going on. Like I can't get into all of that right now, but like this is about my mom. I think knew, because there was a fight between my sister, and my sister went to live with our dad, my older sister, and she went to live with our dad. Which there was just
you're shaking the camera.
Oh, sorry.
She went to live with your dad.
My sister went to live with, sorry, I'm shaking, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just your foot is shaking the table.
That's fine,
sorry,
I'm sorry. My sister went to live with our dad because my mom and my sister just never got along. There were all kinds of fighting. My mom had got together with her ex-boyfriend from high school, and anyway, let me get to the facts of everything, and then we can kind of unpack it psychologically, and you guys can throw out whatever you want at this. No worries, but and there's really nothing that anybody can say that I haven't heard or been listening to already. So, but let me just tell you what happened. So, my sister had gone to live with our dad, and she was visiting, and so we were having every other weekend visitation with my dad. He had joint custody of us, and so we were going over every other weekend. And then my sister came over and was visiting with us, and she got into a fight with my mom. And I think she was trying to tell my mom at this point that something like had happened to her. But my mom thought it was just that she was mad about like our dad and the divorce. And so I remember them coming into the house, or the trailer. It was a single wide, and just being angry that you could cut the tension with a knife. And I don't know, it's just help, please. Can you hand me my drink?
I'm gonna go get you a drink.
Oh, thank you. Okay, God. Sorry, it's just my sister. I think now my sister and I never got along. So for her to be arguing with mom was nothing new. I didn't think anything of it. I was younger than her. We're almost 2 years apart, and my grandma actually like peddled us off as twins a lot of the time, even though we're almost 2 years apart. But we never really got along. So her fighting wasn't like a big deal to me. I just was like, oh, here we go again. But there was one night where there's this one night where Al and I were up. I was supposed to be in bed, but I was obsessed with aliens, and and I was just, he got me with the alien thing, dude. Like, okay, so, and the FBI, which he knew that I wanted to be an FBI. At this time when I was in 5th grade, I wanted to be an FBI agent. So I was obsessed with the X-Files. I wanted to be the next Dana Scully, and he's like, do you want to see this website? First he was playing Doom. First it was like, he was just playing video games on the computer, and it was just Doom. And then he was like, hey, do you want to check out this website? And it's just I think it was like, I want to say like not Drudge Report, but it was like something like that, where the background was all FBI logos, and it was somebody's website where they had collected all kinds of conspiracy stuff about aliens and government stuff. And I don't know, we were looking at it, and it got to be really late at night. And like I said, I was like 10, going on 11. And he started to get really upset. And I was like, what's wrong, And being my good little Christian girl self, wanted to like offer just love and kindness. And I just said, you know, what's wrong? And that's when he was like, will you come sit with me? And so he like took me by the hand. He came and sat with me on the floor in front of the couch, and he put his hand on my thigh and started telling me the story about how he had he'd been a combat Marine, and he had dragged his dead wife and son's bodies across the Gulf. And oh my God, thank you. Fuck, thank you. Oh, I so love you. Thank you. Appreciate you. So he was telling me all this stuff, and I remember I'm 10, maybe 11 years old, and he's got his hand on my thigh, like right about here, and he's got his face like buried like right here, and you know, and it's just like really, I just was like, you know what, I gotta go to bed. Mom's gonna kill me. My mom's gonna kill me. I gotta go to bed. So like, I'm really sorry for what happened to you, and I have to go to bed. So good night. So I left, and then, God, flash forward a year later, we were in Hemet. Well, actually, there was all this other stuff that even happened. The whole knife thing, and the whole he almost killed my mom thing, and just like running away because there was a whole incident with a steak knife that Bethany was visiting. We were in my room and we were talking. And before we got to Hemet, I was like a year later. So like before I get there, this was what was fucked up for me, most of all. Even like that, none of that withstanding, it was just what happened later on was that we were in my room and we were talking, and we heard this blood curdling scream for my sister. My mom was calling my sister's name, and we both ran out of my room and into the kitchen, which is like, it's a trailer, it's a single wide trailer. So it's like the kitchen's right there, my bedroom's right here, the walls are paper thin. God, the walls are so thin. Anyway, so we bolt out of my room and we run to the kitchen, and it's right there. My mom, and there's Al with a steak knife, and he's got it at my mom's throat, and my mom's like, call the police. And it's 2001. We have a corded, there's still we had a cordless phone, was one of the first things I'd ever seen, a cordless phone, but there was still a long cable jack or whatever with the dock that the receiver sat on, right, rested on. And so as soon as Bethany grabbed the receiver to call the police, my mom lunged forward and she ripped the cable out of the jack, out of the phone jack, out of the wall. And of course that cut the line dead. And then she said, go get in the car, go wait in the car. And my sister and I were just shaking. And we're like, no, we're not leaving you. And I really didn't want to leave her. I was really scared. But we did what we were told. And we went out of the door. We backed out of the door. Bethany still had the phone receiver in her hand. And we went down the stairs and into my mom's red Nissan Sentra. And we got into the car and we waited and we waited and we waited. And a police cruiser came by, and my sister got out of the car. She thought, oh God, maybe somebody else called the police. Okay, I'm gonna go get this guy. So she went out to go kind of chase him down, but she ran out of steam, or he didn't stop. He just never stopped. He just kept going. And I was like, what's going on? Why doesn't he stop? So we just got back. She got back in the car. I don't remember getting out of the car. I just remember staying in the car and kind of turning around and seeing, maybe she's gonna get the police. The police were saved. But he just kept driving away. He just drove on. So Bethany got back in the car and we sat and we waited. And then, I don't know, eventually the door opened to the trailer, and there was like a brief pause. So we were just like, oh my God. And I'm like, I didn't know. I didn't know if it was going to be my mom or, or shit, it was going to be Al, it's all right. I didn't know if it was going to be her or him, And then finally my mom came out, and we got in the car and we drove to a nearby park, and we just all cried and cried and cried. And my sister was just yelling at my mom and yelling at my mom. All I was doing was just crying and crying. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back because I didn't know what we were gonna find. I didn't know what was gonna happen if we did go back. Because I was like, please don't go back. Let's not go back. Please, let's go anywhere but back there. And then we went back. We went back. And I think we were gone maybe an hour, so we came back to the trailer. And he wasn't there. But there was an open yellow book, a Yellow Pages phone book. And a picture frame with a picture from then my mom and Al together, smiling together on the beach at Carpinteria. And he had, I guess he had drawn like a picture of a gun with little blood droplets next to his face, like next to his head, and like red Sharpie. And he had circled like a taxi company number. And then he wasn't there. So I was like, okay, maybe looks like maybe he's gone. Maybe he went to kill himself or something. Maybe we're safe. Maybe we're safe. And a little bit of time passed. I don't know how much time passed, but some time passed, and we I don't remember exactly, but it was just weird. I remember going to my dad's one weekend and coming back from my dad's, and his guitar was in the back of my mom's car. And I was so angry. I was so angry. Why? Why is he here? Why is he here? He tried to kill you. Why would you let him come back here? And something about, well, he has a PTSD and he's a Marine and he saw all this stuff. He was having a flashback. Come to find out, he was never even in the military. Al was never in the military. My mom found that out later, but like, didn't matter because she ended up taking him back and she ended up marrying him. And hang on one second, because it's in 2001 still that we ended up in Hemet. And we ended up in this, between 2001 and 2002, my little sister was born. And my mom moved into an apartment in Hemet. And I was in 6th grade when my little sister was born. I love them to death. Love them with all my heart. It's like I got to be the big sister I never had. But so Hemet, and then my mom took him back, and he was back, and we were living there in that apartment, and he had a computer, and I got to kind of use the computer sometimes. I was learning French on Rosetta Stone, and I was obsessing over Voyager, and I was trying to get into all the StarTrek.com chats to like catch a glimpse of Kate Mulgrew in the chat, my hero, Captain Janeway, and everything, and trying to keep myself busy because I was never allowed to be around the baby. And there was this one day where I was going through the files on the computer. And like I said, I'm 11. I'm 6th grade. We're in Hemet, and at this point, like my mom's boyfriend, he's not married. They haven't gotten married yet. But they already have the police there. There had already been police there. I remember before he moved into that apartment with us, before he came back and lived with us again, between the steak knife incident and like coming back to Yucaipa, there was again another incident where he was kicked out, and then so. We didn't he wasn't coming back. Actually, my mom kept saying he's not coming back. But then there would be a phone call, and inevitably my mom would be on the phone for more than 30 seconds to say fuck off. And eventually he would say something about the church and forgiveness, and he's going to get help, and he's got bipolar, and again, his Marine Corps bullshit. And again, my mom didn't know at the time that was a complete fabrication, but she just kept accepting him back. And I just knew it was going to be the end because, like I said, when Caitlin was born, it was just like my mom was like, he's just going to change. It'll all be different. And then there would just be fights and everything else. And I was completely left to my on my own. And this man had tried to kill my mom, and he had these pictures of like trigger warning. Like I'm just going to say what I saw, and you can tell me. because my mom tried to tell me that this was not what I thought I saw. Like what I saw is not what I thought I saw. That's what my mom told me. I did tell this is the whole thing about this entire topic. My mom knew. My mom knew what he was. She knew that he was a pedophile. She knew that he liked underage girls because he had pictures of underage girls in underwear on stained mattresses with sad expressions on their faces. And my mom tried to tell me that that's not, I guess that's perfectly fine, or those were relatives of his. Okay, so she knew that there was something going on because I told her. And you know what? She got mad at me for telling her 2 days after I saw the pictures. Of course I was scared. Of course I was scared. Look at everything that had happened so far. My mom just kept taking this guy back, and I was terrified of him, and I was scared, and I kept saying, I want my mom back. I want my mom back. And my mom would get mad at me, and she would say, you know what? That's fine. You know what? Pack your bags. I'll call your dad right now. Your dad can come pick you up. And he did. He came and picked me up, but then I ended up coming back and ended up being there with them for quite some time. And it would just keep going round and round and again and again. And then a few years later, like flash forward all these years later, my mom married him the next year. My mom married him the next year. She didn't know about Bethany. She didn't know about my, all of this has like been discussed, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, and it's just, I'm sorry. It's like, I shouldn't have, like, I'm trying not to, I want to protect people, but at the same time, it's like, we never got to say these names. We never got to say what happened. No one ever got to advocate for us. There was no justice. There was no charges filed. They just said, by the time my sister came forward and it told anything about what had happened to her with this guy, that in California, the statute of limitations was 3 years. It happened in 2002. It happened to her in 2001, 2002. She was 12. She didn't say anything until 2005 or 2006. So yeah, they laughed my mom out of the police department is what she said. But she's telling me like, oh, he's just, it's the drugs. And then eventually there was another time where he got arrested right before Christmas for sending love letters. Again, this is Al, my mom's husband now. This is still in 2012. The man is sending pictures and sending love letters to his daughter's best friend. And he's taking care of his daughter full time while my mom is working full time. And he's home with his 8-year-old daughter all the time. And who knows? We don't know. I don't know. And God, I hate to think about it so much, but it's like, I worry all the time that there's something that happened that we don't remember, or I don't know. But anyway, he was arrested. He was arrested for that. He was charged. He was convicted. And that all happened like in front of his daughter. And she didn't understand what had happened. All she knew was Christmas, and the police came for her daddy. And then he just said, oh, it's drugs. It's just the drugs. And the church has saved me, and the church has saved me, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, and I'll just stay clean, and I'll just, music, and I'll stay away from social media and everything. And it was like, okay, but then he get back into social media. And then just a few years ago, he sent a picture of his parts to a little girl in Oklahoma, and he got popped for that. And they sent him to Oklahoma to do a few years for that. So, and then while that was happening, while he was being extradited for that, the woman that he was dating at the time accused him of doing something to her 3-year-old daughter. And nothing ever came of that as far as I know, but she made the accusation. They tried to get the police involved, and there was a federal officer, the guy who actually came and extradited him, basically, the marshal. My mom contacted the marshal and tried to convince him to take Al's laptop, and he did. And then they came back later and said because he did that, they can't pursue charges against him for the little girl, for that ex-girlfriend's daughter. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a system that we're up against. But then you have my mom who, when I asked her, why did you do this? Why did you proceed to continue to put us in jeopardy and danger repeatedly? He kept saying, I'm going to kill you, Carrie. I'm going to kill you, Carrie. And now you wonder why, flash forward 15 years later, your 35-year-old adult daughter has treatment-resistant schizophrenia. And guess who one of the voices that she hears is? It's Al's voice saying, I'm going to kill you, Carrie. I'm going to kill you, Rachel. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to fucking get you. It's like, and like slamming on the doors and banging on the doors and just all that noise and constantly threatening to kill me all the time. And you don't even understand what this man did to me. He may never have, to me, as far as I'm concerned, molestation under the law means unwanted attention toward a child. It doesn't have to do with any physical touch. You never have to touch a child even to molest them under the law. Okay, under the definition of the law, molestation is any unwanted attention directed at a child. And then there are degrees, okay? There are like felonies and there's misdemeanors and there's like different contexts under which there are more severe, obviously, cases given the nature of the severity of things, how far things went. And isn't that, it's fucked that we even have that, but that's what happened here. So he never saw any justice for what he actually physically did to my sister, because he physically molested my sister. He put his mouth on my sister, and that is a sexual assault. That's an assault. He trapped her, he cornered her, he assaulted her. But the thing is that was never charged. He was never charged for that. He admitted he did it. He asked for forgiveness from the church. He was granted forgiveness from the church, and my mom married him. And then I asked my sister to come forward when she got upset one day. Like I told you, my sister and I never really got along. But I chose to stay with my dad and not go back to my mom because I couldn't bear it anymore. My mom we were homeless. We were in battered women's shelter after battered women's shelter. My mom kept saying to me things like, well, whatever happened to me wasn't as bad. I mean, he threw over a couch. He pulled the keys out of the fucking ignition of the car while my mom was driving it because we were listening to Boston. Like, we were listening to Journey. We were listening to all this music that my mom's boyfriend had given me. In between my dad and Al was Evan. And Evan was like cool, and he had music, and he could play the guitar like better than Yngwie Malmsteen. And he gave me Journey and Rush and Boston and Pink Floyd, and he gave me some of the best music, and he made me want to play guitar. And yeah, he had a drinking problem, and he had definitely not been prepared to be thrust into a father position, but he did his best. And damn, if he wasn't at least the best male role model I ever had in my life. And that's why I have this tattoo right here, because that's his band logo. And that's why, like, I was inspired to play music and really focus on making music from the heart, like Rush talks about. And I don't know, it's just like this whole thing was like, why did my mom do this? Why did she knowingly marry him? She knew, because she married him after she and I had that argument about those pictures, and she did it anyway. Not knowing about my sister at the time doesn't excuse her, because she knew about the pictures on the computer. Right? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I was gonna talk about the other case I was close to, and that, like, there's more women that yeah, there's more women like this too. Like, there are more women who
it's like, it's just the worst thing to go through. Like, we were scared. I was scared all the time of him. It wasn't until after I joined the military. He was still taking pictures of my sister's best friends when he was back in Beaumont, and that was even toward the end of their marriage, because they finally divorced. But it was 15-year-long marriage.
Yeah, I wonder, just I don't understand it either, because, like, yeah, in all cases I've heard about of these monstrous things happening. I mean, this other family, the dad, he was like drugging the children and essentially like gang raping them, like inviting his nasty pedophile friends over. Yeah. And so the daughter came to the mom multiple times and, you know, deny. And I similar story about what we're talking here about, the way the moms respond. And I do wonder how many with these serial cases especially are these women, if you excuse it that many times and you ignore it that many times and you deny it that many times, what is the motive behind that? Why are you doing it? And all I can think, and maybe it's not true, but somebody tell me, is that they're a pedophile too. That, like, there's some sort of sadistic thing, or some level of self-sabotage and sadism and perversion there. I mean, and to allow this to happen to children. Like, either you're a pedophile and you're sadistically, like, getting off on it too, or I don't know. I mean,
a lot of women say it's because they're so scared they're scared to leave. But my mom told me I could keep a better eye on him. When I'm with him, I can keep a better eye on him. But there were 3 or 4 children, including her own, who were victimized because she wasn't keeping an eye on him. Like, she wasn't around because she was working full time. So how could she be keeping an eye on him?
I don't know.
Right?
It gets down to
that doesn't
at that
make
point,
any sense. It's not like a logical, sane reason to continue to subject your children to mortal peril and, like, sexual assault, essentially.
It gets down to, I mean, why people even have children to begin with, because yeah, if you're gonna say I was too scared, you have a noble duty here to be responsible for the safety and protection of those children, and it doesn't really matter what feelings are going on inside of you.
Right. I think then the lesson, the big takeaway I've taken away from it, like, you know, going into education and trying to help other children isn't just to necessarily just rescue children or whatever to re-victimize myself over and over again or re-traumatize myself in any way. It's actually just to make sure that there is somebody who is looking out for them in some way, shape, or form. But like that's why if I see something, I'll say something. I'm a mandated reporter. I have to report if I suspect anything is going on. And so it's like, yes, there's a law and there's something that says that like you're under the law if you fail to report child abuse, even suspected child abuse. You don't have to have evidence of anything. But if you think something is going on, you have a duty under the law and an obligation legally, morally, ethically to report it to social services or CPS and to law enforcement, whoever. You can't rely on a supervisor to do it. You are duty bound under the law. And we all take that oath. And so it's like, it's just like, how could you, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. And I understand like I want to break that cycle, that cycle that says that, like my mom told me about something that happened to her when she was a kid. Something that happened to her stepdad did something to her and her mom blamed her for it. And then she denied that it happened. And that was a whole thing because her mom blamed her that it was about the divorce and she was just mad about it. And she was wearing something revealing and she tried to blame my mom for what happened. And you know, I don't know what is going on, but like there's a thing about, even we were talking about the hairstyles and things like that and how women are still infantilized now. And throughout the last 50 years, the baby dolls and even like the side ponytail from the 80s, 90s, I'm wearing this hairstyle. This is a hairstyle, but like honestly, it's practical for me because I have hair and it's good in the summertime to get that air on the back of my neck and feel like some cool breeze, you know? So it's actually really functional look. But for me, it's like I remember wearing this like this all the time because I was born 1990 and it was like right on the cusp. And so my mom was still putting me in like all the 90s hairstyles and things like that. And so this was popular. But then you'd have grown women wearing that. And so you'd have children wearing that, grown women wearing that. That was sexualized. Again, the baby doll thing. And what else would we mention? Betty Boop and all of that. And it's just even the way women talked and that how men found it attractive for women to talk very high pitched and like little girls. And I mean, it's just really sickening to me that this is actually really normalized and that women have given into this, like that's normal. And that we should give into that and we should pander to that. And I'll even have an OnlyFans that caters to that, or I'll work on a phone sex chat line where I talk as the person's 5-year-old daughter. And that's happening in the world. And some people will be like, well, it's better that they do it over the chat than they do it to their actual chat. But you don't know if they are or not. And they're just funneling some of it into the chat and not all of it. You don't know exactly. So that's the thing. It's like, the problem is that my mom put us in danger. And I don't think that all women can be trusted to really protect their children all the time. And there were people adults in my life who actually did contact CPS on my behalf because they knew my parents weren't doing anything about the things that were going on in our family. And
the thing is, there's other neglect in this story beyond that as well. It's consistent serial neglect in all avenues as far as your story.
Well, yeah, like my 18-year-old sister physically assaulted me, struck me over the head repeatedly with a blunt object and left me bleeding on the carpet and ran away and left me there to get no medical help. And I passed out. And when I woke up hours later, my dad was finally home. And then they were telling me, it's because you didn't kick your sister's ass years ago that this happened to you. And I was in our Christian home, excuse me, Mom, like we were raised to turn the other cheek. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was turning my cheek to close my bedroom door so that she could stop slamming her fucking thing down on my head. And she was just going ham, ham, ham. And she hit me like 3 fucking good times. And it blood. And I mean, it was really dramatic, but it was really physically, it was severe. And there was blood everywhere. And she then took off. She panicked. She's like, let me help you. And this all happened on a Friday night. My dad worked in Orange County. We lived in Corona. We were both going to high school in Corona. And so I was bleeding on the carpet. My grandma called, said, your dad's on his way. It was an hour and a half drive on a Friday night, maybe from Anaheim, where my dad's bus yard was, to our house in Corona, our apartment in Corona, across the street from the high school. And my sister and I had this argument over some cleanser that my dad bought us. It was over cleanser. I offered to replace the whole thing, and that's when the whole thing started. And she just went, she was still holding this. Anyway, so my mom came over the next day and said, you should have kicked her ass. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're like you're twice her height. You're 5'8", and you're going to the army and everything. And I was like, what are you talking about? You would have ripped me a new asshole if you found out that I had ever like put my hands on her. And it was like, you raised me us to turn the other cheek. And then my dad convinced me, hey, that's your sister. You don't need to file charges. And I went to school with a gash over my eyebrow, and somebody noticed and they asked me. I didn't have a good answer, but I didn't kind of answer them. I just kind of act like so I heard somebody calling me or something or whatever. It was time to start class, or I need to get to my homework or something. I'll tell you later. Kind of situation. And I guess that wasn't satisfactory to whoever it was I talked to, and that person, as a mandated reporter, reported CPS. And then my mom and Al turned on me. My stepdad, my pedophile, convicted child molesting stepfather, emailed me all these nasty things telling me that I was no longer part of the family, and that how dare I. And then my mom was like, you're airing all our family's dirty laundry. And I was like, what? Bethany, like, my sister attacked me. I didn't report anything. Dad told me to forgive her. I forgave her. He's the one who kicked her out of the apartment over the weekend, and she snuck back in, and he changed the locks. So I don't know. It's like we were teenagers. She's almost 2 years older than I was 16 going on 17. I maybe just turned 17, and she was 18 already. So it was just, she was an adult, and she should have known better than to strike me with a blunt object on my head, and that to the point of bleeding, and then leave me there with a head trauma. And she hit me really hard. I mean, it was really gnarly. And then I went to school like that, and people noticed, and they called. My mom blamed me for the whole thing. And she said, what about your sister? What if they take her away from me? They're going to take her away, and it'll be all your fault. And then they cut me off when I was a teenager, and I really needed my mom. I needed my mom. And she kept choosing him, kept choosing Al, and the night I remember having a very brief conversation where my mom said, I'm putting the baby down. I asked her if she would come, and I told her what happened. And she told me that night, I can't come, I'm putting the baby down. Somebody else your dad will have to come deal with that when he gets off work. And who knows how long that was going to be. And I was falling asleep, like I was getting tired and groggy, and the adrenaline was starting to How old were you? And then I was 16, and my sister was 18 when this happened, and we were in an apartment, and my dad was at work an hour and a half away, and my mom was 15 minutes away. And she said, I can't come. I won't come because I have to put your sister down. My sister was like second grade, and she wouldn't come. So my grandma called. Actually, my sister's boyfriend called, said that she'd gone up the street to shoot some heroin, and that was the last time he ever saw her again. Thanks a lot. It was my fault. And then he hung up, and I said, it's not my fault. And then I hung up. And then my grandma called, and then she said, your dad's on his way. And then I was like, oh my God, there's blood all over the carpet. Dad's going to kill me. And then my grandma said, it's the only nice thing my grandmother's ever said. The only compassionate thing my grandma ever said to me was, don't worry about the blood on the carpet. I think that's the last thing your dad's worried about right now. But the thing is, my dad still had to like sit in traffic wondering what was going on at home. And he was working these 2 a.m. to 2 a.m. shifts. So it was just, my dad was sort of like not there a lot during our high school years. And my mom never came to anything because she got back together with Al. And so she wasn't letting us come over and hang out with her. I couldn't see Caitlin anymore. She wouldn't let me come over. I actually showed up to the apartment one night, and she like cracked the door open and was like, sorry, the baby's asleep. And then I saw Al. I saw that jet black, curly, fucking, sick, fucking, oily, fucking, jet black, fucking, sick face go by on the window. And I was like, I know he's here. I know he's here. And my sister went over there and stayed with them over the weekend. My dad kicked her out after the fight, and she hit me and everything. She went over to my mom's apartment, and she told them that, like, I started the whole thing. And I was like, I didn't start the whole thing. I told her I would replace her facial cleanser, and that's when she attacked me. I was trying to do the right thing. I don't know how I could have done this any differently. I apologized. I used her cleanser on accident. My dad had bought us an identical bottle to share because, of course, my dad never got us each our own thing. We had to share everything. And I was fine with sharing, and my sister wasn't. She had to have everything on her own, and it always had to be twice as expensive as everything else. And my dad was shopping at the 99-cent store, and I was being reported for smelling bad at school because I had like distressed old band t-shirts that I would wear to school. We were all into the classic rock shit. Classic rock. Journey shirts and Aerosmith and shit. And that's what I wore. It was like intentionally distressed. And somebody reported me for like hygiene. And then I was dragged to the school and I was smelled in front of everybody and declared clean, actually declared in front of people by the assistant principal in front of people that I didn't smell bad and that there was nothing wrong with me. But you should get some Tide just in case, Dad. And then my dad refused to get any Tide. He was insisted on just going back to 99-cent store and getting whatever he could get. And then the AP was like, no, I think you really should just get some Tide. And my dad finally got some Tide, and I never had any real problems again at school with that. But it drove me crazy. I would just dig into my arms, and I dig into my arms, and they diagnosed me with generalized anxiety. And then nobody got me any therapy, nobody got me any counseling. Every time I went to the counselor, they would call some sort of CPS thing would happen with my mom, and then I would get blamed. And so my mom would cut me out of the family, and then I would get nasty emails from Al again saying, congratulations, you're no longer part of the family. And it would just go all over again. So I joined the Army. I was 17 and I said, fuck all this. I'm joining the Army. And I did. And I said, Mom, you're signing for me. My parents were divorced, so they both had to sign. And they both fucking signed. And off I went. And I was like, I thought all my problems would be solved, you know? But in this case, it just never solved the problem because my mom remained married to him. And he kept victimizing children. And he, again, Alfred Jason Corona is a convicted child molester. There's pedophile, which means the person that has the attraction, and then there's molestation, which is the person has acted on it in some way. So that's either way, this person is not safe to be around children, should never be trusted. You can't trust anything because he's also been violent. He's also been, he's just a pathological like liar. And it's just how can a mother whose core chief business of their life is the safe welfare of children and raising of children, how can that person turn their back on their own child, refuse to come to their aid? And that has happened repeatedly. I was stranded in New Zealand and my entire family said, sucks to be you. And that's just, our family just doesn't, there's no empathy. I don't know, where is the empathy or the compassion or the understanding that this is not normal. This should never have happened. Your children are forever scarred and, I guess, genuinely, legitimately traumatized because of the choices you made. We had chances after chance after chance to get to safety and shelter. I had a restraining order in my pocket at 13 years old. She moved us up to where his family lived. Okay, so we were sequestered. He sequestered my mom from her family. When her relatives died, she didn't attend the funeral because she chose to be with her husband, the child molesting pedophile, instead of attending her grandmother's funeral. Again, abandoning her family. And she already lives with guilt for not being there for her other grandmother, who she actually had a bond with after her father died of a heart attack. Then she didn't go and see her ailing, dying grandmother, and then her grandmother died. So my mom deals with that kind of trauma, that kind of guilt, that kind of shame, but she's never gone to therapy. She's never gotten any help for it. And yet she sits in judgment of her entire family and all of her children who are all fucked up and everything. And y'all should go to therapy and you fix yourselves and you fix yourselves. And then, oh, but I know in my heart of hearts that my children will never be normal and I'll have to just take care of them my whole life. And that's my poor lot in life now. And whatever happens, if you end up on the street with your schizophrenia and everything, you can always just come home. And there'll always be a place for you here in some toxic, dysfunctional marriage that you're in with some whack dude. Which right now, it's just, I wish I could say that divorcing that man, Alfred Jason Corona, the molesting pedophile, I wish that could have solved all of our problems. But my mom just doesn't get it. She still sometimes will tell me things like, well, for all that Al was, he may have been a shithead, but at least he cooked a heck of a quesadilla. He could cook and he would keep things clean. And I'm like, do you hear yourself? And I tell her these things and I'm not afraid. We talk about this. She can't shut me up anymore. She's been trying to shut me up about this ever since it happened, And why? I was taught my whole life that if something is wrong, you're supposed to tell a trusted adult. And the most trusted adult in your life is your mother and your father. And since my father was at work all the time, I couldn't go to my dad and I was only seeing him every other weekend. And my mom just ignored all the warnings that I tried to give her. Time after time after time. When we moved to Seaside and we walked into that house, we were all free. We were all fucking free for like the 5th or 6th time now. And I thought, this is it. This is 3rd time's the 5th time's the charm. Al is gone and he's never gonna hurt us again. He's never gonna hurt my mom. He's never gonna threaten us. He's never gonna molest anybody. He's never gonna do any of these things. And yet here we are. She tells me, she promised me. I had this restraining order in my pocket and I carried it with me on the bus and I took it with me everywhere to school. I was afraid all the time that he would show back up again because he had shown back up 3 or 4 times before. And she swore to me in the hallway, in the doorway of the bathroom. I remember standing there so vividly, standing there, and she swore to me, she promised me, Al is never gonna know where we live. I promise you, he's never gonna know where we are. He's never gonna know where we are. You have my word. I love you. My mom, this is my mother, saying these things to me. I promise you, he'll never know where we live. I went down to visit my dad for fall break. We were living in Seaside, Monterey. 300 miles away from the rest of my family. And within months, I was my dad's visiting in Southern California, and he was kind of flying me back to visit once a month through Southwest. So I got to fly on an airplane and come visit my dad and my sister and my grandma once a month or so. And whenever my dad could afford the cheapest fucking flight possible. So, of course, but it was just, we were flying back and forth. And then the church, the fucking pastor from the church on the hill in San Jose, Celebrate Recovery, came to the apartment or something and worked his ever-loving Christian magic on everything and told my mom all this mumbo-jumbo about how Al's repented and how he's delivered and how he'll never molest again and how he'll never harm anybody again, how he's a changed man and blah, 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 and everything. And it's like, we're supposed to believe that? No, I'm not coming home, Mom. And I was supposed to be getting on a plane to go back to Seaside, to go back to school like the next day. And I was in, this is 8th grade. And I was supposed to go back to school. And I told my mom, I'm not coming home. You're on your own with this. And I hung up the phone. And then I didn't see my mom for a year. She finally came back. She finally came down because after missing my Gigi's funeral, she realized that, like, oh my God, both of my daughters are gone. But to this day, do you know how she talks about it? She doesn't say, I'm really sorry that I created these awful, terrible, horrible, deplorable, unbearable, unlivable, toxic conditions that you should never have been exposed to and that you felt you had to flee from. I'm sorry for all of that. And I missed you every day. And I'm sorry that I didn't do right sooner and I didn't do the right thing and leave this horrible, toxic, child molesting, abusive, sociopathic, awful monster. I didn't do that. But my mom doesn't say those things. That's not how she talks about it. Do you know what my mom says? My mom says that essentially what it was is that she didn't want to be on the hook for another divorce. Because under the eyes of God and in the Bible, she didn't have any biblical jurisdiction or reason to leave Al. That was her excuse for staying with him, was she couldn't find a reason to leave him. That was good enough. Makes no sense.
But that's exactly it. If these things cannot touch the person's soul, there's something
She
wrong.
Still stands by these things because she says to us, you know, now you all know how it feels, how I felt so left behind and abandoned by my children. That's how she talks about that time. When she says, oh, now you know how I felt when you left me behind, you all abandoned me. That's how she frames it. Tell me that's not normal. Please, somebody, real people, please tell me. Because the hallucinations have convinced me that I guess I'm supposed to just accept that. And whenever because she still says these things. She hasn't learned anything. She still says that, oh, you know, for all that he was, and what a little shithead he was. It's like, he wasn't just a little shithead. He tried to kill us on multiple occasions. He didn't just, it wasn't even just the molestation, which we didn't know about during the height of all the physical violence. But there was like, then we found out about the molestation and everything like that. And then it kept going on and on and on. And then this bullshit about, oh, I can keep a better eye on him. Were you keeping a better eye on him when he was taking those pictures of Caitlin's best friend? When he was sending the letters to her other best friend? With their other best friend and their other best friend and their other best friend and this other little stranger, complete stranger, off in Oklahoma. And then the excuse was, oh, I thought I was sending it to a grown person. Like, no, motherfucker, you've been doing this for years. You have a fucking ancient long rap sheet of history of doing this shit. You can't just keep saying, oh, it was the drugs, or oh, I thought you weren't even supposed to be on social media. When a person is registered as a sex offender, especially a molester, like he was actually convicted of molestation, okay? So under the sex offender registry, you're supposed to constantly be reporting where you are. And when you're homeless, you're supposed to even say, I'm homeless and this is the bridge I'm staying under. These are the cross streets. This is the park I'm at. This is the Walmart that I'm at. Like, you're supposed to let them know everywhere that you are. And of course, his thing is he'll get a job and it'll be some shit job, and then he'll fucking get in a fight, or he'll harass a woman, or he'll do some shit he's not supposed to. And then he'll find some woman to like suck you about, it's just like leech off of and vampire off of. And he found some woman now, and that woman is married to him now. So we now come full circle to the question of the hour, which is, why do women marry men they know are pedophiles and molesters? Because the woman who is married to Alfred Jason Corona now supposedly knows everything that he's done and loves him and accepts him as he is and forgives him, and he's entitled to love same as anybody else. And that's true Christian love. So you tell me what you think. Is that true Christian love? Is that what that means? It means to accept that this man may jeopardize the lives of yourself, your children, other women, other women's children. Because let me tell you, when Heidi was yelling at my mom on the phone, how come you didn't tell me that Al was a molester? How come you didn't tell me about him? What the fuck is wrong with you? You just let that happen. And my mom was like, what are you talking about? I didn't know it was my job. My mom said, I didn't know that it was like, it's not my job. Like, why is it my job to go warn the world about Alfred Jason Corona being a child molesting pedophile, a convicted pedophile? I didn't know that it was my job to like be being the cavalry every time, or it's like the whistleblower. And it was like, well, it would be nice for you to, at least for once in your life, actually act on in the best interest of a child, since you could claim to be some kind of child expert. So my phone is at 9%. I want to thank everybody who's been here. If you've been participating, I'm sorry if I haven't answered anything. This is stuff that we'll get to it later. I'll post some response. They'll go through the chat. I'll look at everybody's comments later, and I'll do some shorts, and I'll respond to you as directly as I can later on. I just need a break. I need to like stop for a second and like just get my shit together and get back to like the real world for a second, because I'm safe where I am. I'm loved. I have the support. This treatment-resistant schizophrenia is a fucking waking nightmare. It's a horror show. It's a horror movie that I live with every day. And I hear Al's voice, and sometimes I see Al. And I haven't been able to talk about this for years because we didn't talk about this. Nobody's out there saying, like, this is what it's like to live with this. There's people out there saying I recovered, and that's wonderful. And I'm so happy for the people who found recovery in schizophrenia. And I wish for so much for myself that I will find it. And someday I will. I believe someday there will be some cure, or maybe through XR technology, I'll find a way. That's why I'm working on that app, so I can ground myself in the real world. But thank you for being here. And please don't stop talking about this stuff. Don't stop asking the question, why are women doing this? How do we make this cycle stop? Because my mom had been molested, and she just allowed this cycle to continue, and we got to stop it. And you guys tell me, how do we stop it? I'm asking, begging, pleading, like, let's fucking stop this. It's not okay. You can't blame it on drugs. The pedophile can't blame it on drugs. You have that attraction. You have that proclivity. That's something that's in you already. And maybe the drugs, they lower the inhibitions and make it more easy to act on them. But that's not what's causing the molestation. That's not what's causing the pedophilia. And so that's what we need to nail that down, because it's like people need to understand that it's not okay to allow children to come to harm. Repeatedly come to harm for 15 plus 20 years of their life, longer. Some people never leave. Some children never get out. Some children are killed and murdered by their abusers and by those predators. And there are women who are complicit. And I want to support all women. It's like, yeah, I want to support all women. But when all women aren't good, it's like not true. There's no such thing as all good or all bad, or all men are bad and all women are bad, or all men are good, or all whatever. There's no such thing as black or white in these situations. But in this situation, the one situation I would say is the right thing to do is always to leave, get out. Don't pass go, don't collect $200. Just get the fuck out of there. Get your kids out. It doesn't matter if you didn't see anything happen. If you know that there's an inkling and your children are trying to tell you something, just listen to them and get out. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Why does it got to be this slick hair, jet black motherfucker? Like, what is jet black hair? Sorry, excuse me. I just want to make it clear. He had jet black hair. This jet black hair, slick haired motherfucker was always just like, fuck. He thought he was like Ricky Ricardo. I think he thought he was Desi Arnaz or something or some shit. And he wasn't, he isn't, he struck his own stepfather. Like, you know, he's a violent guy. He's always been a violent guy. And then just trying to be like, I'm some saved, redeemed person, and then doing it all over again. And just, I'm so sick and tired of it. And then his family would just be like, oh, poor Al, poor little Alfie, poor little, you know, oh my God. And then him trying to say that like his family did stuff to him. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? What are you talking about? When will you ever just own it? When will you ever just say, you know what? I'm fucking sick in the fucking head and I got to get some fucking help and I should get myself locked away. And I should just go voluntarily report to some institution and just lock myself away so I don't fucking expose myself to anybody literally ever again. That would be great. That would just be so much. That would be the best thing that he could ever do if he really believed in his Christian beliefs and values. If he believes he has this affliction, you know, this is just an affliction, and he could just pray it away, then fucking keep your ass in church as far the fuck away from society as possible. Go live in a fucking hole somewhere in the ground or some fucking little place like they had in the X-Files movie. There was that little colony of pedophiles or whatever that they all lived together in some fucking little compound or some shit. And like some little, it was like a little convent or some shit. And then they had it was Billy Connolly or somebody. Yeah, Billy Connolly played the priest or whatever. That was the X-Files movie. It was like, I don't know, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Were you supposed to, you know, there was a time when I really wanted to take vengeance. I wanted to take vengeance so bad. There was a moment in my life where I actually had the opportunity and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot take another day thinking about my mom putting her body on his body, knowing that he was touching children or trying to interact with children and then acting on things with children, and you let him touch you. How could you do that? How could you let a man you know put his parts on child's parts, your child's parts? How could you let him touch you? How could you? Like, I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense. Make that make sense. Don't tell me that's about Jesus and forgiveness. Don't tell me that that's about Jesus and forgiveness. That's some fucking sick, lied, deluded shit you've told yourself. But that's not truth. That's not reality. That's some weird thing. She was able to compartmentalize things in some weird, sick way, and that's just fucked. But more for therapy. Tally ho. I'm not going to be like my mom who won't go to therapy. I'm going to therapy. I'm getting help. I will always continue to advocate for myself. I will do everything I can to continue to try to heal through this. I don't know. The voices will probably never go away. There's no cure for schizophrenia. There's no cure for treatment-resistant schizophrenia. I'm out of luck. I tried the latest medication. It didn't work. So actually made me violently ill. And so I had to stop taking it. But now there isn't anything. And that was the miracle drug for schizophrenia, the first drug for schizophrenia in 50 years. Cobenfy, the real MVP. And I was like, yeah, I'm down, let's go. And I walked out of my psychiatrist's office with some samples of Cobenfy, and I was like, yes, poster child, it's gonna work. You know, he said it's a totally different kind of schizophrenia medication. You're just gonna love it. And then he goes, at the last second, he goes, you know what it is? It's a nerve agent. He tells this to a schizophrenic person with like paranoia that they're about to put as like a nerve agent basically inside my body. And then it's no wonder why I became violently ill like 6-8 times a day, and I lost all this weight really suddenly. And I was like, it's not working, and I'm just violently ill. So let's not take this anymore. So now I'm off of that. And then we've tried low doses of ketamine, which helps tamp the voices down a little bit. But now I don't have any more of it, and I'm out of it, and I can't see my psychiatrist because he charges $200 a session. He doesn't accept Medicaid. That's my dilemma for another time. I will discuss the trials and tribulations of being schizophrenic and trying to get the proper health care and the proper psychiatric treatments and things. That's why I'm trying to find other ways to help myself. So that's why I started Preceptor. Percept AR app that I'm trying to create like an augmented reality and like a way of scanning the environment. Because sometimes when I record the hallucination, I see the hallucination on the camera live in real time. But when I go back to look at it later, it's not there, or like there's a different kind of hallucination sometimes. It's like a different thing there. So I have this app where I'm learning how to use it to scan the environment, kind of like an emotional support animal would, or like a service dog could, and let me know whether or not that's a hallucination or whether or not that's a real person or object. And then I can just allow myself to it'll ask you some logic questions. You'll do some grounding exercises that are all like evidence-based therapy. Like, I'm gonna work with some mental health professionals and on the R&D side to make sure that the grounding techniques are really indicated or are good for people with psychosis like schizophrenia and stuff. I don't want to I'm not an expert. I'm a patient who's just trying to find a solution. So that's what Perceptor is. If you want to know more about that, there's some videos on there about it. If you want to talk about like how to help, I did get some trauma-informed therapy. I did get some good trauma-informed therapy for a while. So I would suggest for anybody who's gone through anything like this at all, who's been a victim or survivor of domestic violence or child sexual assault or anything in the realm of anything we discussed on this live stream, I would really highly suggest that you try to seek some support from somebody that you trust. And it's okay to talk about these things. You have the right to use your voice. Our voices are future. Don't stop calling it out. And when you see something, say something, especially when you work with children, but in any circumstance where you see a person who is suspicious and they're acting in a way that makes you think there's something going on. No, don't just like start willingly pointing fingers at people. Gather that evidence. Because I've learned one thing with schizophrenia now, 15 years of having it almost, that I have to keep receipts for everything that happens. I have to keep documentation of it because otherwise people who know, of course, and I've told the whole world, I put myself at great risk talking about schizophrenia openly because I have a job, I do function in the world, and I do have a public facing job. And so it's like, I know that I put myself at risk. But if we don't talk about schizophrenia, when we have the ability to articulate, how will people understand what's going on? How will they ever understand? The stigma will never go away because people will just blindly accept that movies like Split are some actual accurate representation of things like DID and schizophrenia. And there's still this trope out there about schizophrenic people just being schizo killers and stalkers and shit. And it's like, actually, we're more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators of it. And for me as a soldier, like I told you guys at the beginning of the stream, I was in the Army, I served in the military, and things happened to me. I actually continue to be traumatized over and over and over again. I lost a really good friend. I was assaulted in the military. Like I have gone through multiple sexual assaults in my life now, 4. And I can't believe I'm sitting here fucking saying I've been a fucking statistic now 4 fucking times. And it's like, that's why I just stopped drinking. Because drinking was like just making everything worse. It was making my life a living hell. I was trying to cope with the voices are endless, you guys. How do I explain that it's endless? If you want to know anything about like what I'm experiencing and you haven't seen any of my videos yet, there's a lot of these like simulation videos. I'm trying to give you an auditory experience of a taste of what I am enduring now, like right now in real time, that you're not hearing, but I am. It's a constant cacophony of excoriations and threats and constant put downs and it's just always around me. And there's one that sits right behind my ear, and they're different channels of them. They're different like distances, and with no medication, not even ketamine to dampen the field. Like I call it dampening the field, so I can hear my subvocal speech. I'm often doing this or like rubbing my throat or something. And sometimes I even do it in public. And so that's weird, to people, because it's like, what is she doing? Like, what is she doing? And of course, oh my God, I don't want to be seen like being schizo in public. I don't want anybody to catch me going, being schizo, because God forbid, because of movies like Split, there's a statistic that you should know about. And it says that the National Institute of Mental Health says that people with schizophrenia are 10 to 12 times more likely to be victims of violence. And that there's a direct correlation. There's actually a direct correlation between the violence that is perpetrated against people with schizophrenia from media. What people say in the media actually does have a direct link to violence against schizophrenic people in the street, because it gives you a sense that people think that people with schizophrenia are always hearing voices telling them to kill people and hurt people. And then you see cases of it in the news that are rare, but they do happen. But of course, the news picks out the most extreme, most entertaining, most clickbaity, most view. And everybody knows this because I talk to people all the time and they say, this is wrong. We know it's wrong. But they go and buy the tickets to see movies like Split. There's a woman who came out of the blue to tell me that even though she had a family member with schizophrenia, and even though she knew the attorney who worked for John Nash, whose life was they made the movie A Beautiful Mind about, she's still going to go ahead and make a horror movie about a girl who hears voices telling her to kill a pop star and take over her life. And I'm supposed to be like, yeah, go for it. Like, yeah, because that's going to make people really, really love people like me even more. They're going to see that movie and they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm worried about the next person who sees me in the street and they fucking come at me. And oh my God, people are just filled with all kinds of ideas. They think that drugs is what caused it. I never even touched weed till after I was already diagnosed. Never done any other drugs. I can remember. Alcohol did the worst damage I can think of because of all the psychosis that came along with the trauma and the blackout. When you say blackout, we're talking about an en bloc, which is a clinical term for having no memory of so if you've ever had a night of hard drinking where you couldn't remember it, I was having that experience, and the bad things, awful things were happening, and I had no idea I was doing them because it was like sleepwalking. You were not aware. Your brain wasn't recording that information. So while there is some fighting and altercations and attacks that I have been involved in, and I thought I was being attacked. I believed I saw somebody attacking me, and I was defending myself, but I wasn't in touch with reality. I didn't know where I was. I didn't recognize the person in front of me. I saw an enemy combatant and I fought the enemy combatant. And that's what was happening. I was having an actual military related flashback. I served in the Army. There's proof of that. You know what I mean? There's actual proof. I have people who vouch for me. They wanted me to come back and actually teach at DLI and everything. Like I'm still have good rapport with people from the military. I served honorably. I don't have anything to fear if anybody were to look into that background either, you know? And the thing is, I started under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I came out of the closet as a lesbian when I was 14. My mom completely just like, it was never going to be okay. And she sent me all this Exit International stuff and all this other shit. And then she would sit there and go, oh, are you gay because of Al? Are you gay because of Al and what happened with Al? And are you like choosing to be lesbian because you don't trust man? Now you're like a man-hating lesbian? Is that what's going on here? It's all my fault. I'm like, of course she would make it about you. Of course you make it about you. But actually remember, Mom, when I was 5 years old and you turned to my dad and you said I had an unnatural obsession with Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager and that I needed to see a shrink? Yeah. And then my dad said, hero worship. My mom looked at me like, how do you know about that? And I was like, because my dad told me about it, you know? And it was all fucked up. And it was just made everything that happened with my sister and that fight worse in high school. And I just want to run away. And I always knew I was going to join the Army. I always knew I was going to go in the FBI, which I never did get to the FBI, thank God. But then, like, I got to the Army. I did the Army thing. The Army thing turned into a complete nightmare and disaster. I fell in love with somebody. I went to Australia. It was a complete catastrophe in the end. And then it turned out to just be that the person didn't really, like, love me. And they didn't want to be with me. And they led me to believe that if I left and I went to Australia, I would be able to be with them. And then I got there and they were like, nope, sorry, can't be. I'm not gay. I'm not even like remotely gay. You're just going to be on your own now. And I was like, okay. So I went off and tried to have a whole life there. And I tried to get a job and I started working in the theater and everything in Australia and in Sydney. And I didn't know I was prodromally schizophrenic at the time, but I actually have real experiences. And these are like, I think I could actually find out this guy and find this guy. Because there's a whole crazy thing happened in Australia, and I don't have enough battery juice to talk about it, but we'll get there. We'll get there to this other crazy shit that happened. But it's just, tonight was about this topic of why women marry child predators, knowing that they're child predators. And I think we've covered that ground. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could beat that horse any better. So I'm signing off because I got 4%. Thank you so much for being here. Again, remember, Shatterproof, #Shatterproof. Come check out Glass Stars live. We're going to be talking about schizophrenia and portrayals of schizophrenia in the media and how to do that more authentically and respectfully. If you're interested in reading fiction, if you want horror stories about schizophrenia that are by a schizophrenic, you should read Ripple. You should read The Biscayes also. Read my books. Come check them out. I just sell my ebooks are so cheap. My ebooks are $5.99. You can get them from Gumroad, catkinghere.gumroad.com. You can check them out in paperback if you want. But the big one is the sci-fi trilogy I want to tell you about, which is Glass Stars. It's sci-fi. It's through the lens of lived experience with treatment-resistant schizophrenia. It's my vision of the future, what I think is going to happen to us all. And what if the woman who created a digital sanctuary to escape her suffering with schizophrenia, what if that digital world became humanity's last and final hope for survival? That's what Glass Stars is about. So if you want to, if you're interested in that, if you want to see more simulation videos, there's lots of simulation videos on there showing my day-to-day life and some examples of some of the voices and some of the things that they're saying to me. I'm capped at 50 like text overlay stickers, and trust me, with like a cacophony of at least a dozen or so voices at any given time, it's really hard to sort of parse it out. So I'm doing my best. If it's jarring to you, if it's hard to watch, welcome to my world. I'm sorry, but not sorry, because like the whole point of this is to be raw and unfiltered and unflinchingly authentic and true to my lived experience. And I'm never going to shy away from that. And so that's what I'm about. So if you agree that it's time to support real people with schizophrenia and stop paying lip service and saying, well, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but like step up then, like show us that you can see that there's a spectrum for schizophrenia. We're not all in the street. We're not all killing people out there. I can tell you almost every serial killer I can name except one off the hand was not schizophrenic or hearing voices when they committed their serial killer crimes. And so it's just like, you got to get these ideas out of your head that schizophrenia is caused by drugs. Anybody can get schizophrenia. Anyone. You don't have to have a genetic predisposition. You never have to have done a single substance. You don't have to have played with the Ouija board. None of that has anything to do with it. Some people are just more prone. And so that's why they're saying for young men, especially teen boys, to stay away from THC and cannabis, because I use weed to help me sleep because I have nightmares with complex PTSD. I can't sleep, and sleep is my only escape from these voices and from the hallucination of the serial killer and the dead boy with the severed head in the doorway and the shower, the corpse in the shower, which is there all the time. It smells of rotting flesh. And this is my life. If you've seen 100 Years of Solitude on Netflix, that's a pretty spot on for me. It's very close to what I experience. You know, he kills that guy, and then that guy just lives with them for years and years and years. And so it's like, spoiler alert, by the way. Oh, God. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I'll see you guys next Sunday live here, Cat King here. We'll be talking about, again, more stuff. I haven't decided what the topic will be. I'll work through that. But thank you. Thank you for comments. Thank you to all the people who came in here to say whatever you said. If you left a comment here, you were helping me in some way, shape, or form, whether you wanted to or not. But thank you for anybody who left a supporting comment, because I see hallucinations on my screen. My screen jitters and jumps and things like that. And sometimes I see things jumping at me. I have a hard time maintaining like eye contact with the lens, with the camera, like the eye of the camera. And because of my paranoid thoughts and the thought broadcasting that's going on, like my voices are telling me that everyone can hear everything that I'm thinking, and that like I've got to like shut that shit down and lock it down and stop talking forever and ever. Like I should kill myself and everything. So I'm just gonna go now. But thank you. Have a great night and take good care. And thanks, Chandra, for like being here and putting your input in there and insights and just supporting me through this, because it's been amazing. She's the best that's ever happened to me, and I'm so blessed and grateful. And you guys have a great week. I gotta get back at it again and just get grounded and get back in the fight against treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Thanks for your support. Thanks, John B. I am nuts, and that's okay. You know, it's I'm clinically diagnosed treatment-resistant schizophrenia. It's in the papers. If y'all want to see my diagnosis in black and white by my psychiatrist, I could show my papes, my receipts. But I'm running out of battery, so next time. Take care, guys and gals, and esteemed otherin as well.